India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the US.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of. A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA. Join the conversation.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Tiranga hum hi rahe.
As India celebrates its Republic Day, we tell you how patriotism has evolved in Indian cinema.
तिहाड़ में ऐसी पता नहीं कितनी कहानियां हैं.
Meet the creators of Black Warrant as the series trends online. And find out some rare facts about Indian actor Saif Ali Khan, who was recently attacked in an alleged burglary attempt. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
This week on Inside South Asia, the United States of America has a new man in the White House. What does Trump 2.0 mean for South Asia? Are there signs of hope for Afghan girls at last? Taliban's acting deputy foreign minister calls for girls' high schools to open. And how prepared is Pakistan for the ICC Champions Trophy? A look at the preparation of venues. All this and much more on Inside South Asia.
Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal. Lots lined up for you on the show. But first, a quick check on the headlines. 4 Israeli women soldiers abducted by Hamas militants on October 7, 2023 are set to be released today in a second exchange under a ceasefire deal that halted the war in Gaza. Russian President Vladimir Putin says 2022 Ukraine crisis might have been averted had Donald Trump been the US president at that time. Ukrainian President Zelensky says Putin is trying to manipulate Trump's peace efforts. Donald Trump and California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom vow to work together to help LA recover from deadly wildfires as the US president arrives in the city to survey damage from the blazes. Over 500 illegal migrants arrested and deported in a mass operation just days into Donald Trump's second term as the US president. His press secretary makes the announcements. India expresses concern over pro-Khalistani elements disrupting screening of movie Emergency in the UK. Tory MP Bob Blackman raises the matter in UK Parliament. Rwanda-backed M23 rebels kill a military governor as they advance through Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Army and M23 militants clashed outside Goma as Western nations urged citizens to leave the main city. Thousands of people take to the streets across Serbia after student demonstration organizers call for a strike over fatal collapse of a train station roof in November. Farmers struggling with high production cost and the impact of climate change demonstrate in Greece, lining junctions around National Highway with hundreds of tractors near Karditsa town. American Madison Keys stands in between world number one Arena Sabalenka at the Australian Open. Will Sabalenka join the likes of Martina Hingis or will Keys win her maiden Grand Slam title?
Her fifth semi-final since getting to her first major final.
Our top focus on world DNA, Russian President Vladimir Putin is ready for talks with US President Donald Trump on the Ukraine war. Moscow says it awaits a definitive move from Washington amid the escalating tensions in Ukraine. Talks between the two leaders are being widely seen to be potentially decisive in reshaping the trajectory of the Russia-Ukraine war. Putin also echoed Trump's claim that the Ukraine conflict could have been avoided if he were in office.
Regarding the issue related to, say, negotiations, also in this sense we have always said, and I want to emphasize this again, we are ready for these negotiations on Ukrainian issues, but there are also questions here that require special attention.
In response to the comments by the United States President Donald Trump on cutting-edge nuclear arms, Kremlin has said that the Russian president wants to restart nuclear arms cut talks as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Putin is trying to manipulate efforts by Trump to secure a peaceful solution to the war. This comes after Putin praised the US President Donald Trump and said that he is ready for peace talks. However, Kiev has said that the peace talks will not be possible without the consultation of Ukraine and Europe.
I received the report from the head of the Foreign Intelligence Service on Russia's military potential and Putin's readiness to continue the war and manipulate world leaders. Specifically, he is trying to manipulate the US president's desire to achieve peace. I am confident that no Russian manipulations will succeed any longer.
Meanwhile, China has said that it is willing to maintain communications with all the parties after Trump spoke with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Chinese Foreign Ministry has said that dialogue and negotiations are the only way forward to resolve the Ukraine crisis. Trump and Xi Jinping held talks before Trump took office on January 20th. And well, for more on this, we are now being joined by Dr. Malcolm Davis from Canberra. He's a senior analyst in defense strategy and capability at Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Welcome to World DNA, Dr. Davis.
Thank you for having me.
Now, big breaking news that Putin has clearly said that he is ready to hold talks with Trump on the Ukraine-Russia war. First up, your analysis: is a war-ending deal on the cards?
No, in the sense that what Putin's terms are for any ceasefire is that he gets to keep all the territory that he's conquered so far in Ukraine and annexed illegally. Secondly, that he extends control of that territory beyond the territory he's controlling to other areas of Ukraine. Thirdly, that Ukraine has no way into NATO and has no security guarantees from the West. And ultimately, what that does is it rewards aggression, rewards Russian aggression, and gives Russia time to regroup its forces so that it can launch the war again in a year or two to take more territory. So I am extremely skeptical that this will lead to some sort of just peace coming out of these negotiations.
Right, Dr. Davis, you've clearly said that there is no peace on the cards between Ukraine and Russia. Now, Putin's willingness to hold talks comes a day after Zelensky said that he could also speak with Putin. So perhaps, do you think that what kind of concessions will be made to end 3 years of fighting between Russia and Ukraine, because ending the war is on top of Trump's agenda as well?
It is, but at the same time, you've got to end the war in a way that preserves Ukraine's security and its interests going forward, and at the same time ensures that NATO and Western Europe is not threatened by Russia. And Zelensky, I think, understands this. He understands that the best way to ensure a future war does not occur in Ukraine would be for Ukraine to become part of NATO, and I think that's an entirely appropriate step to take. Russia obviously opposes it. But secondly, you've got to end the war in a way that prevents Russia from them using a ceasefire or using that peace agreement to regroup and rearm and either threaten Ukraine in a year or two, or worse, threaten NATO directly. So I think that what we need to avoid here is falling into the trap that we did in 1938 with Munich, where we had a peace in our time agreement that ultimately gave Hitler and the Nazis time to continue the war and ultimately take more of Europe. We need to avoid repeating the mistakes of history here and ultimately come up with some sort of peace agreement that protects Ukraine's interests, that protects Europe's security, and denies Russia the ability to launch further aggression. What I'm seeing at the moment does none of those things.
Right. I also want to touch upon Putin's latest statement, where he said that if Trump was in the office, the Ukraine war would not have taken place. It would have perhaps been averted. He also called Trump pragmatic and smart, and he also spoke about nuclear disarmament with US. I want to ask you if all this leads to strong keenness from Russia's side to mend ties with the US with Trump in the Oval Office.
No, in the sense that what Putin is doing is trying to manipulate Trump's ego. I think if Trump had been in power, Putin still would have invaded Ukraine. It doesn't matter who was in the Oval Office. Putin had every intention and determination to invade Ukraine because he sees Ukraine as part of Russia. He sees this war in Ukraine as merely the first campaign in a wider war to impose a Russian sphere of influence. And ultimately what what Putin wants to achieve is to dictate the terms of NATO's capitulation that sees them withdraw from Central and Eastern Europe. So I don't think Putin would have necessarily held off had Trump been in power. Secondly, in terms of nuclear disarmament, that's simply not going to happen. Russia is in the throes of a major nuclear modernization and expansion process at the moment. There's already indications that they have violated New START, that key arms control agreement that is supposed to limit the number of warheads and missile delivery systems by the United States and Russia. And Russia's already violated that, and they're continuing to expand and modernize their capabilities. And the US obviously is trying to catch up to developments in Russia in that regard. So I think that once again, the notion somehow that Russia is sincere and genuine about nuclear disarmament or nuclear reductions, I think is laughable.
Right, Dr. Davis, thank you for joining us on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you.
Following the devastating wildfires in California, U.S. President Donald Trump has met California Governor Gavin Newsom and is now visiting areas ravaged by the forest fires. This comes just hours after Trump lambasted the Foreign Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. The U.S. President Trump said that he will be helping in supplying aid to California after the deadly wildfires ravaged LA. Trump on several occasions has also criticized the Californian Governor Newsom for the poor response to the wildfires. Earlier, Trump was in North Carolina to visit the areas damaged by Hurricane Helene. During his visit, Trump criticized FEMA, saying that the federal agency has not done enough and they have not done their job, and they are now reviewing the whole concept of FEMA. Trump said that he will be signing an executive order scrapping the Disaster Management Agency altogether.
FEMA has really let us down, let the country down, and I don't know if that's Biden's fault or whose fault it is, but we're going to take over and we're going to do a good job. We're going to go visit the site, and we're going to work with probably 3 of the congressmen, Republican congressmen, who've been fantastic, whose areas have been affected, and with Michael Whatley, the governor, and whoever else is, we decide to get involved. Probably less FEMA, because FEMA just hasn't done the job. And we're looking at the whole concept of FEMA.
Meanwhile, Trump has repealed the security for former U.S. health official Anthony Fauci. Fauci has been spearheading the country's COVID-19 response team and has faced multiple death threats. The health expert announced his retirement in 2022. At a press conference, Trump said that Fauci has made enough money and can hire his own security.
No, I think, when you work for government, at some point your security detail comes off. And, you can't have them forever. So I think it's very standard. If it would be for somebody else, you wouldn't be asking the question. The question is very fair. But, you work for government. We took some off other people, too. But you can't have a security detail for the rest of your life because you work for government.
In the midst of this, the U.S. Justice Department has ordered prosecutions against those blocking access to abortion clinics, which in reproductive health centers. The decision comes as tens and thousands took part in an anti-abortion rally in Washington, D.C. Trump vowed his support to the demonstrators by declaring to stand proudly for families and for life. In other news, a 23-year-old man in Indiana has been arrested for allegedly issuing death threats against U.S. President Donald Trump using TikTok. Well, according to reports, Douglas Tharams, that's the person's name, has been arrested by the FBI for posting videos threatening the life of the U.S. president. In one of his videos, he said that Trump needs to be killed. As per authorities, the 23-year-old is now currently in custody and will appear in federal court on Monday. Hamas has officially confirmed the names of 4 Israeli women soldiers who will be released from Gaza as a part of a ceasefire deal with Israel. The hostages, identified as Karina Ariev, Daniela Gilboa, Nama Levy and Liri Albag, were captured on October 7, 2023 during Hamas's attack on Israel. These women, aged 19 and 20, were serving as IDF surveillance soldiers when they were abducted by Hamas. The Hostage and Missing Families Forum confirmed their identities and announced that they would be released on Saturday. As news of the impending release spread, demonstrations erupted in Tel Aviv. Relatives of hostages still held in Gaza blocked major highways, demanding action for those who remain captive. Demonstrators expressed their frustrations for a complete resolution to the hostage situation. Following the scheduled release of the second group of hostages, Israel is now set to free another batch of Palestinian prisoners. The ceasefire agreement stipulates that for each of the female soldiers, Israel will release 50 Palestinian prisoners. Meanwhile, the ceasefire itself, which was brokered after months of on and off negotiations between Qatar, Egypt and the US, has not been enough to halt the violence entirely. While Gaza experienced a temporary pause in fighting, violence continued to flare in the West Bank. Israeli security forces have been conducting airstrikes and ground operations in the Jenin region, which is a stronghold of militant groups. In the latest, an Israeli drone strike have killed 2 people in the town of Kabatia. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, at least 14 people have been killed since the Israeli operation began earlier this week. In Gaza, the entry of aid has increased majorly since the ceasefire began, with hundreds of truckloads of supplies arriving. However, the distribution of this aid remains a massive challenge, and that is due to the destruction of infrastructure and the collapse of law and order in the region. Meanwhile, tensions have also risen surrounding the operations of UNRWA, which is the UN agency for Palestinian refugees. Israel's UN ambassador Danny Danon, in a letter to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, has stated that UNRWA must end its operations and leave Jerusalem by January 30th. Well, the move comes amid growing concerns from Israel regarding the agency's activities and its role in the region. And without coordination with Israel, UNRWA will face immense challenges in continuing its work in Gaza or West Bank. Are we alone in the universe? Humanity's fascination with extraterrestrial life continues to fuel debates. But a surprising theory is now making waves, literally. Now, a US congressman claims that aliens might not be lurking in outer space, but rather under the ocean. Our next report telling you more.
Starlight dancing across the infinite darkness of space tantalizingly hints at endless cosmic mysteries. Billions of galaxies sparkle with untold worlds, each potentially harboring alien civilizations that are beyond human comprehension. Yet humanity's relentless search for extraterrestrial life might have answers, hiding not in distant star systems, but deep beneath our own planet's oceanic realms. US Congressional Representative Tim Burchett boldly challenges the traditional alien hunting paradigms, suggesting that underwater alien craft are moving at speeds that defy known physics. According to Burchett, an unnamed admiral has witnessed extraordinary underwater phenomena that challenge our understanding of technological possibility. The idea of aliens beneath the ocean adds a fascinating twist to the ongoing UFO debate. For years, sightings of unidentified flying objects have puzzled scientists and policymakers alike. Once dismissed as conspiracy theories, they are now a subject of serious congressional inquiry. However, the Pentagon remains skeptical. A March 2024 report reiterated that most UFO sightings could be explained by mundane causes, such as weather balloons, satellites, or spy planes. Claims made at a 2023 congressional hearing by a former Air Force intelligence officer who alleged that the US had recovered crashed alien craft and non-human origin were also firmly denied. But while scientific consensus remains elusive, the congressman's underwater alien hypothesis adds a provocative new dimension to humanity's age-old quest for cosmic companionship. The ocean, covering 71% of our planet's surface, is one of the least explored frontiers, a potential sanctuary for extraordinary secrets that challenge our understanding of life itself alike.